Hey everybody, it's Bust, kicking off expedition trial number 352. 352, I think. But before we get started on that, I did want to mention we're getting close to the final patch of the Guardians of the Ancient. As you can see on the event calendar up here, down the Rise of the Underworlds will be coming out in about 2 weeks, and then the final patch for this for the Guardians of the Ancients should come out shortly after this video was released, or if you didn't get it this right away, maybe almost immediately. And so, kind of my plan for this is the thing I've been kind of upset with here recently is. Well, I won't say I'm upset. It was just kind of a life mistake. Was kind of making the expedition helper on the site kind of like tied to the knowledge of the card pools and the thing that comes out. And so I thought it was pretty useful to take this compilation of information and then try to um, piece it together in the means that would be usable very quickly. But we're pushing 3 months since the expedition spreadsheet has been updated, and so I really want to kind of take away the necessity for that to be updated for the site to also be up to date. And so I'm looking to kind of pull that out and then also integrate the tier list into the expedition helper. And so that's kind of like going to be my project for the next few weeks. And so I was planning on, like, my ultimate goal for the content that we produce here has been to put out 4 videos a week. I know for, geez, I don't know, at least like the past 6 months or so, I've pretty consistently put out one every day. But I am planning on cutting back to about 4 a week, and then taking that time I would have spent on videos to get the site back up to date for the new format that I'm looking to have there. And so, don't freak out if if you're looking for your daily video and it just hasn't shown up. I am planning on dropping back to that 4 videos a week until I get the site updated, and then once it's updated, I'll try to get back to doing one pretty much every day. But we'll see. On June 2nd, there's the lab of. Oh, that already passed. So I was looking at this thing and thinking there was going to be another Lab of Legends update. There is not. But yeah, there's supposed to be expedition updates in this new patch. We'll see what happens with that. And then the new cards will come out on June the 30th. And we'll definitely be jumping back into the daily videos once those new champions and new cards are released. But just wanted to keep you up to date. I don't want you to be all sad when you wake up in the morning to watch your FTP bust video and it just doesn't show up. So, alrighty. Nonetheless, let's jump in and see what we can work with here. And so, I've been, pursuing this thing to where we just draft the champion where we haven't drafted the most recently, and I figure we can probably continue that theme with this set of cards. If you're just out here going for your 7 wins, I would recommend drafting the Taric. This is a pretty decent Taric start. You prefer to see something like a Zenith Blade in with his start, but we'll talk about him more if that's who it ends up being. And so, if you're not familiar, we're just over here at ftpbus.com. We're just going to click on the little search thing. I think Taric probably isn't the oldest one. Where's he at? He's at 306 with this April the 15th trial. Fiora, where was he? I got to remember that again. 306. Fiora was at, just barely beat him out at 308. And then let's see here with Talia. I can't type real good today. Talia was at, yeah, it's probably going to be a while at 325. Okay, I figured we'd be over here with Taric. And so we'll just switch over to the Expedition Helper and get this pulled up here really quick. This is the Blades and Buffs one that pairs up with Riven. And so kind of the idea behind this pool and this set of cards is you're going to be playing Riven, and then Riven has all of the Reforged cards. You can use the Reforges to boost up your Taric without having to actually invest a real card into him to get that ability, and then you have the ability to double up on the Riven swords if you play the sword on Taric and then support it onto another unit. And so that's the theme. It's fine, but the big things that I always call out with Taric is you have to pay this spell tax. And so if ideally, say on turn 4, everything is going to plan, you want to get an attack in with Taric, and you want to play a Zenith Blade on him, then you have to have that 3 mana banked up from the turn 3. And so if you're not going to have anything come into play on turn 3, or if you're kind of banking the mana from a turn or two earlier, you either can't play anything in the first 2 turns or you need a 2-drop. And so just the way that these cards tend to work themselves together, there's not a whole lot of 3-drops in this card pool. There's just Crescent Guardian in this one, and I think you'll find the 3/3 for 3 that puts the spring gifts in your hand in the other Taric pool. But there's just not a whole lot of 3s. Whenever you draft these Taric decks, you tend to find yourself with a ton of 2-drops and a ton of 4-drops, nothing in the 3-drop space. And so what we tend to see is, you're really looking to stack up on the 2s, so you don't play anything on turn 3, and then you're ready to go with your Zenith Blades. And so that tax is very important to be able to pay, because that's the happy case where everything goes right. If things have gone wrong to where you need to play a unit and a spell in the same turn, then that unit needs to be cheap. And so if you're looking to say play that same line to where we're trying to play a spell on 3, we wouldn't be able to play, or on 4, we wouldn't be able to play the Zenith Blade, but we could perhaps play like a 1-drop and a Pale Cascade or something. And so you do have to keep in mind the spell tax that you're going to have to be paying here. And then otherwise, you're really looking for kind of like specific sets of spells. Your units don't really matter that much as long as you have them to put on the board, but we are looking for roughly 3 Zenith Blades. I do like to have 1 or 2 Blessing of Targons, and then we like to have 2 or 3 Pale Cascades. It's just kind of guarantees that you have the right spell at the right time every time that you're attacking with Taric. Then otherwise, the other things going on here with this card pool, much in the similar vein to where we were talking about Riven and the Reforged units, having access to the cards that generate gems is pretty useful as well. And so we can pick up mountain goats, or if we can pick up gift givers as our means to generate gems, then it's a pretty useful way to level up our Taric. But then, last and not least, as far as this card pool is concerned, it doesn't have any removal spells. So it has a lot of combat tricks, has a lot of early game plays. If you want to consider like Blessing of Targon plus Taric to be your late game, or Grandfather Rummel as your late game, it's got all that covered. It just doesn't have any removal. And so Sunburst is all that really exists within Targon, so you will be looking for removal through some other kind of means. So let's see how this shapes up, though. We're going to take the Taric, and then reasonable enough set with Draven. I don't think we're going to get too much value out of these other card pools. The Talia here, we could get landmarks out of Targon if we want to just ignore Taric, since she does pair up with what's his name, Malphite here, but we're never going to get like good synergies between these 2 card pools. If we want to build towards Taric, we're never getting value out of Time in a Bottle or Imagined Possibilities, and then if we want to build towards Talia, there aren't any landmarks that live within the Taric pool, and so very tough to get some synergies between the 2. And then kind of the same problem is what you run into with Braum. There's a handful of combat tricks here, but it's really tough to pull off like a Take Heart. That's Braum's flip card. Just having to have damage on your unit first. You can't use Troll Chant with Taric, and so kind of a similar thing to where it's tough to find some useful combat tricks. And so ideally, the thing that we can find here, I know in this Scrapheap card pool, there are all of the Reforged cards, so we'll have access to that. Draven comes down and generates spinning axes, which can be used on Taric as well. It's kind of expensive to chase down the spinning axe, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And so we'll get the Scrapheap pool pulled up real quick, but I know a lot of the tools we're looking for live over here with Draven as well. And so let's take a peek. I'm still intending on just drafting towards Taric because it's been a while. Just doing a full pivot into Draven is something that I wouldn't be completely opposed to, but probably won't do it just for the sake of this trial. But yeah, like I mentioned, this one does have the Reforge units, so you're going to see Blade Squire, Rune Weaver, and then Weapon Hilt. So we're going to have access to the Reforges. That's a great way to take advantage of Taric. Then this pool is just like extremely early game centric. So you're going to have your 1s in Draven Biggest Fan and Legion Rearguard. Legion Saboteur also lives here, but not as strong. And then, of course, in your 2-drops, you have the Rune Weaver, and at the 3s, you have the Iron Ballista. So this early game stuff should be pretty covered. And then this does pick up a little bit of the removal spells that we're looking for. I think what does it have? Just have a Nox and Guillotine? I thought this one would have Whirling Death because it was a Draven pool, but I guess that's not the case. So we're still kind of hurting for removal, but otherwise all of the same high highlights from the other card pools. The really good early game, some of these late game overwhelms, whether it's Grummel or Savage Reckoner, we got access to all of that. And so this is a pretty reasonable pairing. It's not like we're getting stuck with like a awkward Darius or something here. Okay, and so I am going to go out of my way to pick up all of these Reforged cards, and so I'm pretty happy to start with the Blade Squire, and we do, fill in the removal spells that we're looking for with the Guillotine. I don't like to stack Guillotines, but I'm definitely happy to pick up one copy. Okay, all right, well, all the removal spells are going to be here today. I don't think we want to chase after the Scrapheap cards. We're not going to get any real bonuses out of Piltover. So I really do want to focus on trying to find some Zenith Blades. We'll have to see if they make an appearance here. But I don't think we want Piltover. It's like if we're going to try to build towards Taric, we aren't really looking to add Mystic Shots and get excited. So not a lot of combos that we're going to have with those. And so with this, I'm just going to come over and take the Sunburst. I'm not a huge fan of Fledgling Stellacorns. This card is pretty bad, but the Sunburst is ultimately pretty important to pick up here. Okay, so pretty mediocre set of cards. We do have a Combat Trick and Sharpened Resolve, but this is a pretty challenging set of units to take advantage of. I think we're just going to take the 2 4-drops here. I'm not really excited about this, but these are all pretty weak cards across the board. Okay, so yeah, it's just like I don't want you to have any cheap units. You got your 1 Blade Squire. You started with our boy Rearguard, and that's all we're gonna get. But with this, we do have the Blessing of Targon Solari Priestess, a nice little package of cards for what our deck is trying to do. Okay, here we go. Now we got a couple of Reforges with the Blade Squire Runeweaver. Just absolutely what we're trying to pick up here. Right, interesting set. So I think kind of the way that we're just going to be tearing this off is we've picked up our removal spells. Right, we have a Sunburst and a Guillotine. I don't want any more spells like this, but if we see a Whirling Death or if we see a Calling Strike, we'll consider it. And so we've done our work to get our removal spells. Those aren't like our tier 1 concern anymore. And so from this point forward, I'm really just going to be looking for cheap cards. And so we don't have any cheap cards here either. And so we're going to have to just go expensive. And so if we're going expensive, I'm happy enough to pick up Eclipse Dragon. This is a fantastic piece of top end if things don't completely work out with our Taric, and then a Fused Firebrand does play fantastically with Taric. This is a great unit to be loading up with Zenith Blades, if we can find one. speaking of Zenith Blades, here we go. I am kind of interested in Draven's Biggest Fan, just since we're only intending on playing 1 copy, but Zenith Blade is the card that we are 100% going out of our way to find now, and so I'm going to take the Zenith Blade here along with the Solari Shield Bearer, just the cheaper unit compared to the Ibex. Beautiful, beautiful. We got a second Zenith Blade here along with a 2-drop, looking pretty good. This is a strong set with the Stomper Priestess, but the Zenith Blades are just too important for what we're trying to do. Okay, and so we do have a real decision here. We have the 3rd Zenith Blade, which I'm going to kind of like drop down in value. The first one's super important, or I mean the second one is super important, but the 3rd one really kind of drops off. So I am just going to come over here and take the 2 Reforged units between the Squire and the Runeweaver. I feel like we can probably get a 3rd Zenith Blade at some point throughout the trial, so I don't think it's super important to be going out of our way to find those. Hey, man, I do love me a Sky's Descent, but we most certainly cannot support this in our deck. So I'm just going to pick up the removal spell here in the Whirling Death Brothers Bond. Brothers Bond is not a card that works with Taric since it targets 2 units, but I'm happy enough to pick up our 3rd removal spell in the Whirling Death. The Grenadier is extremely good. The Glinthorn is not. This is just a pretty overpriced unit for what it does. Hey, alrighty. Well, everyone familiar with the videos know that I do love me a Legion Rearguard, and then Draven's Biggest Fan again should be fine. We're just planning on playing 1 copy of Draven, so having these additional ways to push him to the top of our deck feels pretty good. Okay, an interesting set here. We do have access to a 2nd Whirling Death along with Battering Ram, which is a fine-ish dude. It's not the most exciting late game card, but it's serviceable. and then we have a combat trick and weapon hill plus the brutal hunter. I think I'm just going to go for the raw power here and the battering ram. I would like to pick up a brutal hunter or two, just since that tends to be like an empty spot in our curve. Like we're going to add in Tarics, but we don't want the protector or the Ibex. Then we don't have any challengers up to this point either. But the challenger I prefer is the 5/1 for 2 mana. Since we have all these Reforges, it's pretty easy to give it quick attack. But the Whirling Death feels pretty good for this deck here. Right, which one are you? Oh, I'm not opposed to the Tactician. I mean, getting multiple attacks out of Taric seems pretty decent. I just don't think we're ever going to hit the reputation on this, though. And we have our an additional Zenith Blade here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up the 3rd Zenith Blade. I think we can kind of still drop our curve as the trial goes on. And then the Stomper is a pretty low value 2-drop here. So, right, all set on Zenith Blades. And then, if you're not familiar with what we do here, we do have to go and turn something premium. Let's see who lives here. Maybe we've got a unit at this point. We haven't leveled up yet. So what are we looking for? Noxus and Targon. Okay. Oh, the Stellacorn. Look at you. I do feel bad. Someone pointed out with the previous trial we leveled up the 4/5 for 5 that heals your stuff and then just immediately traded it away. We're probably looking to do the same thing with the Stellacorn here as well. But, you know, you just got your turn to turn premium. You might get to come down in one game, be premium, and, you know, really have your time to sparkle out here. Okay. So interesting. Seeing the Sejuani Lysandra paired up with Targon, I figure they're probably going to be trying to do some landmark things in here, but we'll just have to see. Then with the Sparklefly, I'm not like super interested in keeping this. Like once we have 3 Tarics, this really shoots up in value. This is a pretty good target to be putting your additional Taric spells on, but I think it's going to be pretty low value here. Not a whole lot of cards we care about that he'll interact with in these factions. Right, yeah, this is a much better start. I do love me a Legion Rearguard. This should be enough to shut down his attack. And the unfortunate thing you tend to run into in these spots is they have Brittle Steel here quite frequently, and I don't really want to just be throwing our units away to Brittle Steel this turn. Let's at least wait until we have a Whirling Death to try and take advantage of that. Well, that was the plan, and then we drew Draven. So if he's got the Brittle Steel, we'll let him just eat down the Runeweaver with it. Because even the Draven's premium today. So much premium. Okay, and so if his play here is Fury of the North onto Draven, it's fine. This isn't our big build-around thing. And he's not adding to the board. He's trading his 4-mana card for our 3-mana card. It's a pretty good trade-off. Definitely doesn't get to add to the board after doing that. Okay, shouldn't be able to attack here. The Blessing of Targon. Not a bad pickup, since we can really abuse this board with a single spinning axe along with the Blessing. Gotta have a card here. Alright, well let's just start with spinning axe. See if he wants to respond with anything. Nope. Works for me. I think we're gonna just have to drop Battering Ram. It's gonna get stunned, but I want to be spending the mana here. Okay. Sure. Weird that he would attack with the Starlit Seer, but not the Earth Elemental. Right, so how much do we want to get this Eclipse Dragon down? Uh, kind of a lot. We'd have to just burn a Blade Fragment for nothing if we want to get the Invoke, but I think this is pretty okay. Well, it's not an Invoke, it's a dragon and a dude, but not a bad pickup in the Mind Splitter and the Golden Sister. Well worth the do nothing on the Blade Fragment. Okay. Similar to that last one, if he has like another Fury of the North or something to deal with this Eclipse Dragon, it's okay. He's not building up a very strong board by making these plays. Yeah, this seems absolutely fantastic for us. This Mind Splitter's going to shut things down. It's another landmark. It's fine. I don't want to get like too clever on this board, but I think it's probably safe enough just to go ahead and add him. We can just plan to like block everything that isn't Earth Elemental and be looking pretty strong here. Oh, just a nothing? I don't think you ever win the game doing nothing there. Okay, so we have the 11 mana. We can add the Golden Sister and her friend, then have access to either a Blessing of Targon or Whirling Death. It seems pretty worthwhile. You can have like a Winter's Breath for the big punish. No, Sunburst is fine. Okay. May not be lethal, but his board's going to get annihilated here.
Tear them apart. Does not ruffle our feathers.
Got him. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Right, let's pick up our Taric here. So even like if we hadn't just like fully intended on drafting Taric, you know, if you were just shooting for your 7 and not trying to do the builder rounds, Draven could potentially be a fine pickup as well. We haven't got like super built around Taric, and then of course in these aggressive decks, just having you know, Zenith Blades and Combat Tricks is a fine thing. Draven's always happy to have those, but I think we're good to just keep building to Taric, picking up another Reforged, and then our second Blessing. Just a great piece of top end when you're building to Taric. This looks pretty good. Taric works great with Taric, as the LOR Guardian tells us. Hey, interesting set of champions. I'd assume this is a Scouts deck since he's playing Demacia in it, and he just happens to have Misfortune as part of it. And with this, we're going to get the turn 4 attack with Taric if we want, but we won't be playing Weapon Hilt if that's how it goes. So, like, the way I would imagine this going is, say well, maybe we would. We play Draven's Biggest Fan on 1, nothing on 2, just to bank the 2 mana. On 3, we play Draven, and then on 4, we play Taric. I think that seems fine. We'll hang on to the Blade Squire just in case a opponent does something a little bit too aggressive for us, but I think we'll be looking good here. Let you get lined up to where on turn 6 we can send the Riven Sword onto Taric if we want. Let's see what they discarded here. I'd assume it's just going to be something expensive. Oh, Stalking Broodmother, yeah. I think this is fine to just go ahead and block. We're never going to get a positive attack out of this, so let's just go ahead and trade. I was trying to think if there's any, like, the only way we really get punished for this is if he plays, like, the Charger here. And the Messenger is pretty similar, but not a huge deal. I'll block his messenger if he wants to attack with it. We, of course, won't block the 3/3.
Don't worry, I am here.
You're here, Taric. We're ready for it. That seems strong. Get some big boosts going about here.
I'll shoot the wings off a bilge wasp.
I would assume this attack is good enough to kill off 2 of his units pretty much every time. Guess the only way that this would... Oh yeah, I was going to say, like, Prismatic Barrier is a possibility. You could, like, put a Prismatic Barrier on the Spring Guardian, but it's ultimately not that scary. This is fine. We lose out on our Taric, but he's falling pretty far behind on board. Get this big pile of things to do in our hand. Right, Ravoon.
See the world from behind
I wonder if we ever have to worry about a Sunburst out of this deck.
Is that all you got?
If we do this, we can Riven Sword him next turn. Kind of interested in that, but it just pick up Zenith Blade. We technically can still just Riven Sword here if we want. It's a 4 mana play to play the 3 fragments plus the Riven Sword. So we'll see. I do worry about him just playing a Sunburst here, so you gotta be a little bit careful with this, but could also just look to flip our Draven, but I don't think that's super strong. Would put a ton of spinning axes in our hand.
My faith protects me.
Okay, so I'd assume he just doesn't have a Sunburst at this point. I think if he had one, he would have just played it. So for the rest of these, it comes down to, like, do we want to play a single spinning axe to flip our Draven? Or do, like, we can spinning axe Whirling Death, or do we want to just try and go for the sword? The sword gets, like, a little bit shut down from the shield breaker. It's like I kind of want to just get in with Draven. But if we do this, he might just take the 4, and then that kind of sucks for us. What if, though, if we, like, load up everything onto the Sentinel? I think I kind of like this. Fragment, Riven Sword. Or that's the sword that'll take him up to 4. Riven Sword will take him up to 6. Could be dangerous if he has another combat trick. I just can't imagine he has a concerted strike or a Sunburst anymore. Care about spring gifts. What does that mean, though? Is he gonna look to play like a Targon Shield? He's had a weird amount of Targon in this Misfortune-based deck. Okay, I've gotten scared. We're just gonna go in with the Sentinel. We can spinning axe out of a Targon Shield if that's his play here. Okay. Add another unit. Yeah, we're gonna start falling behind. Gotta get this damage in here ASAP. Maybe it was not aggressive enough. It just reeks of a sharp sight or a Targon shield when he plays that spring gifts. It's like he's trying to uh, get his Ravoon up to 7.
So much to tell us.
I think this is all we can really do. We're gonna be sunbursting and then open attacking. We can't really like play a unit and Zenith Blade next turn. So it would just been so much easier if we didn't lose our Taric. get to spread out this blessing of Targon hit or the sword or something. All right, the big decisions are being made. It's so weird though, right? He's playing two misfortunes with the scout factions in Bilgewater Demacia, but he's played all of these. He's played Ravoon. I guess Shield Bearer got created by Ravoon, but some here's some additional daybreaks. So weird. Hey. Axe is coming right up.
No mercy for heretics.
Coming down. I know what this fast spell would be that's just hanging out in the middle of the board.
The guilty will bend.
Dropping a detain. Nothing we can do about that. Okay. So what do we got? Want the Golden Sister or do we want a warrior? We might need the elusive. It's unfortunate, like if we want to play Golden Sister though, we can't get anything going. We could also just take Written in the Stars to try and pick up our other Taric. I think that's probably the way we need to go about this. Kind of go ahead and play him so that we can Zenith Blade next turn. Oh my gosh, he's got another removal. Brutal. Don't know if we can recover from that. We'll try our darndest, that's for sure. But still, this is rough. Okay.
Follow the horizon.
Sure. We got the tricks if we need them. Okay. Gonna be like a Pale Cascade. Sure. Alright, so we're out of Taric, so I'm okay to be a little bit more aggressive with this Blessing of Targon here. We can drop the Blue Sentinel. We can play Crystal Ibex and then start with the Zenith Blade next turn. Next turn he's just gonna be like, "What up? Here's Aurelion Soul." Not a lot we can do about that, but wouldn't surprise me to see it. And what are we looking at in terms of like lethaling next turn? If we say have 7, 11, 12, if we Zenith Blade 13 attack, because the big thing is like we can whirling death down one of his units if he tries to put it in the way of our Blue Sentinel. Like if he wants to block Blue Sentinel with the Moondreamer, we can whirling death down his guy. Let's see how this plays out. Might have to try that and just kind of hope. Of course. Alright. That's gonna do it. We'll just give this one up instead of watching all these animations. We just can't punch through his Aurelian Souls too much. Okay, so, and we don't really need any more Zenith Blades. Don't want the Stellacorn either, but also don't want Crystal Ibex. I'm just going to trade the Ibex out for the Iron Ballista. It's just a bit of an upgrade. It's just, you get a little bit overwhelmed with Zenith Blades if you start drawing multiple copies, so I think this is a fine upgrade. Right, off we go. Cover here, Taric. This deck's decent. I don't want to say it's spectacular, but it's certainly better than decent. We just ran into a few hiccups that last game. Ooh, more dragons. Aurelian Souls. Sure. Right, well, it's probably about as good as we can hope for. It's good to note that we're on the odd attack, so if we want to attack with Taric, we can't do it until the 5th turn. I think it's like I still don't want to be keeping Sparkle Flies, but maybe that's going to be, like when we're at that stage of the game, that might be the only way that we can like punch damage in. So let's hang on to it here. Right, because one of just like a lot of times against these Dragons decks on like turn 4, they're going to play a 4/4, whether it's Shyvana or the 4/4 Fury Dragon. And so I think it's okay to have the means to throw down a Zenith Blade or throw down a +3/+3 onto the elusive. Do this? I don't really like that. Let's go ahead and Zenith Blade, because we're like next turn we're just gonna play Taric, and then we can play the additional Zenith Blade on turn 5 right before we attack. Sure. We still get the Zenith Blade out of this. The Daybreak still happens even if the spell fails. Blessing of Targon makes an appearance. It's a little stronger than the Zenith Blade for next turn. Yep, just gotta take this. That bro is gonna be annoying, but we could eventually just like put a blocker in front of this and hit it with an Oxen Guillotine. Say what up? Here's my big boys.
I have urgent news.
Okay. Ooh, interesting. Here comes the Aurelian Soul. Always frightening to see one of these things come down. Okay. Pretty frightening. He's definitely got Aurelian Soul in his hand now. Okay, then we just have to go wider here. Hopefully we'll hit a good spell for Taric so that we can just burst open. Quick attack's gonna have to be okay. Get the free guillotine if that gets a chance to be a thing. Doesn't it? Guess it doesn't super matter where we put the boost. He either needs to go on like the strongest or the weakest, since he probably wants to, block our strongest unit with the first blade. But all right, so the Whirling Death doesn't do anything here, but we're still lethal. Okay. I guess that's all that matters. gotta sit here and do a little mathematics on the fingers and just say, oh yeah, it just doesn't matter. Cool. All right, so what do we have here? I'm not real interested in trading out blue sentinels, especially for white flame protectors. Never trading out rune weavers. So it keeps trying to get us to get rid of the Stellacorn. Just it knows it's been made premium and doesn't want us to keep it in the deck. I'm like moderately interested in Wrathful Rider. I really don't like this card, but it does play pretty well with what we're doing here. It just gives us, if you have a quick attack out of the Reforges, it works well. If you have an Overwhelm, that works well. If we're going to Zenith Blade it, it works well. If we Zenith Blade Taric onto this thing, it works well. So I would rather this be something a little bit stronger, but the Stellacorn's ultimately just a super weak unit. Sorry, bro. I mean, you had your chance to come down all premium, like you just didn't take advantage of it. You really can't blame that one on me. Okay, so we can hang on to the Blade Squire, then let's look for Taric and other early game plays. Found him. Oh. Again, this is another one where we're on the odd attacks, and so we won't be able to attack with Taric until turn 5, but see how that plays out. Might have dropped his phone in the toilet. You never know. Maybe he sees the name FTP Bust calling up his mom, saying, "Hey man, hey ma, I gotta be on the internet." All right, ready for battle now.
I hope that was not. I'll show the hunters.
Soraka and Sejuani. Interesting. Alright, let's just keep up the aggression. Shouldn't be like too worried about any of his plays here. So I think we want to just drop Draven. I'd say like his most likely play is just the 3/3 for 3 that makes spring gifts. And we have a pretty strong attack into that. Whoa.
Finally, some action.
That is not a strong start.
Let the
Those of you keeping track at home. It's going to try an Ember Maiden for multiple turns. The strategy, I guess. Got the Taric with the Blessing now if we want. He flips into Blessing of Targon. I could get behind that. I think he's just realizing his cards didn't sequence how he wanted.
I bring clarity.
Really surprised if he doesn't have another play here, though. I mean, it seems like a spot where he could be waiting on us to do something just to play a Caught in the Cold, but can't imagine he just doesn't have a play. Or lethal if he doesn't. I guess he could have like a heal or a flash freeze or something, but we're about to get this bursted 12 stats next turn. Okay. You can technically lethal through that, but I'm not. Well, maybe we should go for it. Right? He's gonna go up to 14. He'll fall to 13 because of Ember Maiden. We're gonna lose the Shield Bearer. We've got 6 on board, another 6 from the Blessing, and then we can Spinning Axe for another +1. Okay. That works. And then I'm going to discard the Spinning Axe and not discard the Blade Fragment. Oh, you did heal through that one. Oops, that's annoying. I assumed it was gonna not have any damages on him because of the way it went previously. That's okay though. Looking pretty big here. I guess we didn't need to play the spinning axe, right? Since his Ember Maiden's going to be surviving, he's clearly got a block here. But assuming he just takes the damage, he would take an additional 1 from the Maiden next turn.
Embers and smoke.
What you gonna do? Nothing. Works for me. And we are lined up pretty reasonably with this Overwhelm fragment to potentially do something next turn. If we want to put the Overwhelms onto Taric and try to punch through. But either way, I think we'll be fine. If he like taps out for a unit here and we get to Sunburst it, or if he plays something we don't care about and we just drop the Wrathful Rider, we're looking pretty strong. Working on the big plays. Let's see what he puts together here. Dropped his phone in the toilet. You never know. Like, it could have been at the start of the game, he dropped his phone in the toilet, got it all wiped off, started playing, just drops it again. Be a little slippery. Never know. You never know what happens. There we go. Scar Mother Virna. She's ignorable, I think. We can't kill her with the Sunburst. She's a little bit too big for that, but this attack is not intimidating. Wait, where's our fragment? Overwhelm. Get him lined up like this. Put you in here. See what happens. I would assume this is just too much to deal with, but see, if he has like a harsh winds, that would be a touch awkward for the home team. Okay, that's not enough. A little bit more than that, my man. Still need a little bit more than that. Double check, it says neg 1. Okay. Alrighty. GG, my friend. Hey. Right along. Let's see, we're just going to pick up another Taric. It's our third Blessing of Targon, which typically feels like a bit much, but it'll be okay. Then, of course, I'm a reasonable fan of Savage Reckoner in these style of decks. You can't always pull off giving Overwhelm where you want it, but again, much like the Wrathful Rider, he plays pretty well with the Reforges, and then with these decks, we tend to, pretty similar to like a like Freylord Overwhelms deck. You typically just get this big massive board of overwhelms and crush the game down in one turn. It really helps play into that theme. Him and Rummel typically much better than say like Eclipse Dragon. I know Eclipse Dragon was fantastic here, and but you're usually closing these games out with just big boards full of overwhelms. Okay, so let's hang on to the Rune Weaver. Look for some early game plays. Try to be a little aggressive here as we can. Gangplank, Sejuani, and Ashe. It's gonna be a plunder based deck. I don't mean to talk trash about you, Eclipse Dragon. You're, of course, one of the best units in the game. Better than many champions. Okay. Not a great start against an aggressive plunder draw. We're going to have to just get in here and do what we can. This was a great pickup in the Blue Sentinel. And it's too easy for him. Like, if we attack, then he just gets to follow up with a bunch of dudes. I'd like to be able to just go toe-to-toe with these things. And we need to play Rune Weaver so that we can have a spell to play on Taric. He has a Make It Rain that's kind of brutal, but Parlay is manageable.
I'm ready to shine.
Faster than my arrow? I think not.
Really did to make this trade. Probably not. Well, so it's pretty easy for him to have a combat trick here, which is the painful thing. Might be okay. Go for it. Then if he just takes down our Blue Sentinel, that's okay. I just kind of feel like at the end of the day, we might be able to get a guillotine onto Ashe. If he just comes down and trades, it's fine. It's actually pretty good for us. But if it failed, we have some backup plans here.
Tremble before the winter's claw.
This is a reasonable guillotine target.
Ablaze. I wasn't strong enough.
I'd love to be playing a boosted Eclipse Dragon next turn, but I don't think that's going to quite be in the cards. I think we're just going to have to add the Reckoner. We can do Rearguard Eclipse Dragon next turn. Okay. That can be kind of dangerous. I kind of feel like, given on that Ashe Taric turn that he had 4 mana and didn't have a combat trick, he probably just doesn't have any combat tricks here. So, oh no, that isn't playing out exactly how I wanted. This is okay. I mean, we're getting a huge chunk of damage in here, but I thought we were going to get the Eclipse Dragon down because we had 7 mana on the previous turn. Okay. It's not a bad start. Well, it's actually lethal. I just did the mathematics once I got the attack in there. I was just this is just like a huge open for a ton of damage, and so I didn't want him to play a blocker, and I did want to get the Nightfall on our Eclipse Dragon. So that's how that panned out. I wasn't planning on that being lethal, but it was pretty cool that it would have been. Oh, jeez. Okay. Let's get Broodmother down. We do have some potential here to just generate a Riven Sword onto the Broodmother. We'll see how this goes. We're gonna have to answer this misfortune. Didn't really want to overwrite any units though. We played two though, right? We played the Overwhelm and we played the +2 attack. So the Blade Squire here should be enough to get us our third fragment for the Riven Sword.
Carry your own gear.
Could technically try and take her down with a White Flame Protector, but this seems fine. Okay, so now we can open with the dragon. It's going to lose out on some of these stats and stuff, but hopefully this is enough to close it out. It's going to be like, what up, here's my frostbite. Nothing we can do about that. Okay. So he drew the Zenith Blade out of our deck. It's good to know.
What did we get? Can't leave until you win.
And the unfortunate thing with our board now is we can't get the elusive down for the Golden Sister. There's breath. Okay. That's what it is. See, I don't know if we should be happy or sad that he's not playing a level 2 champion that turn. Oh boy, that's certainly the level 2 champion to have. At least we're in the spot to where we can potentially Whirling Death kill through our Eclipse Dragon next turn. I guess if he puts Aurelion Soul in front of it, we can't do that, but...
Guns blazing.
What a sequence of events.
Fresh out of mercy. Set sail.
Misfortune has Overwhelm now. We have to be a little mindful of that. I think it's the biggest deal. We even want to lose a unit now? Probably do.
Is that all you got?
Okay. +2 attack? No. That would have been nice. Okay. Okay, so what we do here? I have to assume he's just gonna put Aurelion Soul in front of Stalking Broodmother. People draw a relevant combat trick. We can probably be okay with him adding another another champion to the board. It's hard for his champion to be really relevant. I think we got to start with this. He's probably just going to block with Aurelion Soul, but it does open us up for a bit of potential damage in the future. I don't... Gonna be a little bit short here.
My faith protects me.
Welcome to the tipsy hour.
So that was aggressive. Alright, let's see where that gets us. We could have put the quick attack on our Eclipse Dragon. I just don't think this is ever the relevant unit. I mean, I guess we can block his Overwhelms with it, but it feels like if we're going to win this game, it's probably going to be on the back of Battering Ram.
Let's talk about your dad.
Oof.
My kind of party.
Right, so I mean, we can whirling death down the shield breaker. We're still just gonna be a point of damage short. Let's take down Misfortune. And if we can survive into another attack, maybe we can still take it down with elusives or big overwhelms. I can't imagine with him having the free Celestials out of Aurelion Soul along with the level 2 champions that we're going to get to that point, but stranger things have happened. Okay, these are gigantic units, but they don't have overwhelm, so it's not ultra threatening.
I do love an audience.
Every blade, every beat in its
Are you Irelia? Oh, then all the duet tokens are going to have +4/+4. Rich. She's flipped as well. Yeah, this one's okay. We'll give it up here. I mean, that game kind of is what it is, you know. if your opponent's going to Howling Abyss into Aurelion Soul and you can't take them down immediately, then you've probably lost that game. But moving forward. So I'm happy enough to pick up Bastion. I do typically like having one copy of this. It's a nice little spell to drop it down for Arc'teryx. Don't want to trade out the biggest fan or the guillotine, so that's a reasonable pickup. Righty. No more Winter's Breaths, please. I wonder in that game how successful it would have been if we just opened instead of trying to get the attack in with the Riven Sworded Eclipse Dragon. I mean, in that game we did, if memory serves, we did run into both Winter's Breath and Harsh Winds, and so that was my ultimate worry, was if we open with the dragon and then he has a Frostbite. It kind of is what it is. It's not a big deal. We still get to attack with everything else. But if we make the open attack and he has the Frostbite, or if he has the Harsh Winds, it, like, really leaves a lot of value on the table. So I think that was so relevant. It's like you never sit there and play around a Winter's Blast or whatever that thing's called. So happy enough with how that played out. Man, we've seen this opener quite a bit today, where we start with both Taric, Draven, and a 1-drop. Not bad little set of cards. Draven's biggest fan's not that exciting now that we already have our copy of Draven, but we'll make the most of it. Copy the last spell you cast on only me. Can't Brothers Bond through that. This is fine. If we trade 1-drop for 1-drop, it's okay. Legion Rearguard's not super exciting against the tokens deck not being able to block. We're typically the not the aggro in this match. Sparkle Flies can be pretty important. Just gonna take this hit if he comes in with it. Oh, I guess it depends on. He needs to put his Sand Soldier on the left. Okay, he did that poorly. Right, because now we get to gain back the 1 health from the Doomkeeper. This is the only block we can make to where our unit won't die. Draven time. Okay, we'll still attack with Draven and try to pick up the Spinning Axe. I don't think there's any punishes as far as him blocking with the Sand Soldier goes. Okay. Does suck to lose out on that Sparklefly though. I was hoping we get to Brothers Bond and gain a bunch of health with it, but opponent had other plans for us. Good. Oh, I saw him play as Scribe of Sorrows, and I was like, maybe we could play Scribe of Sorrows and just get back our Sparklefly. That's not the way it works. This is a pretty abysmal card in this match. I can say probably just drew a Sand Soldier. Okay. Gotta prevent the damage where we can. If I do it like this, get his dudes off the board. Definitely want to get a block on the Blade Scout. I don't want him like recalling this and getting in a final punch of damage. And then it's kind of like, well, if he's going to have a recall, we might as well take away his options as far as these Dune Keepers go. Right? So if he's going to have the... He just basically can only return Dune Keeper at a place like this. Okay, so do we want to get wide or do we want to go for the Wrathful Rider? I think the Rider is okay. I mean, he hasn't played Azir, but this does give us a way to take advantage of Azir, and then this also gives us a way to flip. We can like still flip our Draven in this attack. If we do this, start Spinning Axe onto Draven, and a discard Draven's biggest fan. Put this on Taric. Back with this crew. Hopefully this is okay. To flip our Draven. Have big Overwhelm attacks on our next one. If we hit Overwhelm on Runeweaver, that can be pretty huge. So, see how this plays out. Pretty out of cards as well. Ooh, that gives us a good blocker. And the Blessing, it's going to pick up some dudes. So, how does this look? The unfortunate thing is we can't do both. We can't Runeweaver and Blessing, but I think banking up some mana this turn is probably pretty good, and then this is still a fine blocker here. We don't have good blocks with the Blessing of Targon. Why didn't we flip our Draven? Thought we played one Spinning Axe on Draven and then he got one from Taric. I missed something there? Attack, not quick attack. We're overwhelmed. This is kind of like the worst one we could have hit.
Your fate was written.
This is gonna hurt.
Okay.
For you.
Right, so don't think we can ever lethal on this next turn. We want a Reckoner. And we'll see what we can do from here, whether or not we want to play Brothers Bond. We can, if he's gonna have a unit, right? If he doesn't have a unit, we can drop down a ton of damage. Whoa. Oh, was a decision. Give it one of these. That's lethal.
Preserve beauty and protect all life.
Ideally, that will just end the game. Cool. Got him.
These gems aren't just for show.
Okay, so what do we want to do here? I'm not really interested in any of these, I don't believe. I'd rather hang on to shield bearers than the rear guard. I think we've kind of reasonably been able to manage our mana in the early game, and we're not like a super aggressive deck. I know we have a lot of these games where we have been putting down this like rear guard into Draven into Taric draws, but for the most part, the way that I typically see this going is you usually like build up a couple of Taric attacks, and you're not really being super aggressive in the early game. So I think I want to hang on to the shield bearer, never trading out our reforges, and then Sunblessed Figure is much worse than Ballista, so we'll skip over those. Okay. Oh, it still feels nice to beat those Azir decks. it I try to keep abreast of what's happening in Constructed. I don't play a whole lot of it, but it seems like those Azir decks have dropped from like 20+% of the metagame down to like 10-12%. So I'm sure people are much happy with how that's panning out. But as far as this goes, I'm cool with holding on to Taric's. We should be on this, turn 4 attack with Taric, and so hopefully we can get something working with him as far as our early game is concerned. If not, it's not the end of the world, but would like to see that happen. And this is probably just worth the open. I think we're going to end up trying to like play Blade Squire as a blocker in front of some rando elite, and so that is hopefully our means to get a spell for Taric. But we'll see how this shapes up. The Zenith Blade. Kind of cool with just going for it, just giving up on the blade at this point. Should realistically be able to get another spell to play before it's all said and done here. Thinking about this real hard. This is okay. This could be, if he wants to put the Blade Keeper in front of our Blade Squire so we get the Reforge, I'm okay with that. And he doesn't have good blocks on either of our units. He can, like, Whirling Death out of this or, get a Prismatic Barrier to not die or something, but I think we're still looking pretty strong here. Cool. Oh, hit the quick attack. Good. Quick attack challenges with this Wrathful Rider next turn if we want. Or we can just play Blessing of Targon. So I'm cool with just like taking a Garen hit here. Maybe he'll choose not to attack. It's kind of, questionable if he didn't want to do anything on the previous turn. Like, is he really going to want to do something this turn? And so, kind of interesting. We can just take this hit if we want. Kind of like reeks of a Prismatic Barrier, but like how hosed are we if we block with Taric and then he has like a Whirling Death? I think we just take this damage on this one. We can try to get a big takedown next turn. Right, let's do it this, like, we quick attack onto this thing, Blessing of Targon, Taric, send everybody in, and we try the quick attack challenge onto Garen. So if he has like another Garen, we're kind of screwed here. we don't really want to be eating a judgment out of this, but if he doesn't have the judgment, then this should be pretty strong. He was playing 2 Garens, right? That's his flip. Don't see it too frequently because we typically don't play a lot of Garens, but big chance for a pretty strong AoE here. Might just be enough damage to kill him though. We're coming in for 17 Overwhelm. He's only got 5 health. Probably going to have to focus on not dying as opposed to keeping Garen alive. Uh-oh. Something's happening. Here come the emotes. Got him. Cool.
These gems aren't just for show.
Yeah, the gems aren't just for show. Okay, what are we doing here? I'm not trading. I don't think we want to do any of these. I'm never trading out Rune Weavers. I want to hang on to our one Guillotine, and then Ibex is just not as good as Blue Sentinel. We want to keep our curve low. So we'll go ahead and skip over all of those. Get ourselves ready for this pre-final battle. Yeah, see that game. Whenever I'm talking about preferring having the likes of a Savage Reckoner instead of an Eclipse Dragon at the end, that's the way these games typically play out, right? We attack with attack with Taric, Zenith Blade something, so we've got these two overwhelms. A lot of times they just take the damage because their combat isn't as good since our units are so big, and then on our next attack, if we have Taric and that original Overwhelm dude and a Blessing of Targon and then the Savage Reckoner on our opponent's turn, it's just a ton of Overwhelm damage. To whereas if we're making that same attack with an Eclipse Dragon, just much easier for our opponent to come in and block it. Okay, interesting. It's like I think we could probably hang on to Zenith Blade, but this is one of these things to where we can play it on turn 5 and Daybreak it. Typically, we aren't seeing too much aggression coming out of these decks. He does have Renekton, so there's always the possibility for a bunch of vulnerables here. But I would think seeing the 2 copies of Talia that he's probably going to be a little bit slower in the early game, probably be on more of a Rock Bear kind of plan. Need something to do though. Give us a bro, please. That's not a bro. Okay. Any playable unit would have been nice. Okay. These games are usually losers. This is kind of playing out exactly how I expected from opponent's deck, but this is brutal from our standpoint. All right, Draven. You're gonna need some help, my man. Right, we just have to run this out here. Like, if he has a Ruthless Predator for our Taric, then that's just abysmal. But if he's just like, okay, I'm just gonna pass and we don't play Taric here, then we are just so incredibly far behind. It's weird that he puts forth the Sand Soldier and just calls it back. I wouldn't be surprised if he's gonna try and shape stone us. Oh, he has the Predator. Kind of is what it is. I still think that was pretty spot on, though. I mean, if he just plays the Chronomancer and passes, and we go, through both turn 3 and both turn 3 and turn 4 without adding anything to the board, we're just never winning the game. So we at least got 2 for 1 out of him. Now we just got to count on Draven to do some carrying here. He's gonna have to put in some work this game.
It's not safe.
He's not going to have his Rock Bears for another turn. I'm thinking here that I'm just looking at, say, like playing Zenith Blade on the Shield Bear, banking up that 3 mana, and then next turn, seeing if we can't let's get like a big Savage Reckoner play or something. See, we might get an acceptable Whirling Death here, though. The old big boy Rock Bears. Curious how much we even like care about this Talia. Can we ever just like lethal here? I mean, I guess that's always worth a question.
Distance means so little when family means so much.
Not super worried about this Talia. We can just choose to like not block her. What are we looking at here? Just 15? Kind of like 16, 17, 18 if we want. No, we're never getting a lethal this turn. Still think we're looking pretty strong. Just the downside to what he did is our Reckoner won't survive against a lot of these units. We can try to protect ourselves with Whirling Death next turn. Have to see how this goes. I'd like to get a chunk of damage in here and then hope for a lethal next turn. Okay. Still feels like he has a shaped stone. I'm not like really excited about trying to slam a bunch of spinning axes into this combat.
Each a grain of sand in a mighty desert.
This leaves us in a spot to where if we can either Whirling Death or double Guillotine. If he tries to get overly clever with the Talia, then we might be able to get some kind of Guillotine play here. Let's see, I would ideally have Whirling Death for next turn so that we can just throw it down in front of one of his blockers. That hook's coming in, yep. It's lethal. Barely. I think if we want to, though, well, we're going to have to block something. Like what? Do this one. Still think he's going to get hit with a shaped stone. But if we do this one, then do we have enough overwhelm? This falls. What if we like do this? Falls to 0. Can protect through the Renekton. That's where we just have to take it. I don't think we're gonna. Well, I guess we could Bastion something. That doesn't seem profitable though. Like this. Hang on. Nope. Oh shit. No, no, no. That's not good enough. Okay. So if we're taking, I just had in my head, it's like if we take down the Renekton, we don't have to prevent as much damage. But if we Shield Bear into Renekton, that's not enough. Okay. Alrighty, so we get her out of here. Still seems like we're probably a little short as far as overwhelm kills go. But I don't think we can add any of these cards, so let's swing it on in. Probably need to try and take down his go wide cards. We're only 10 away. That's not so bad. It's not so bad. So that at least full clears his board. And then that's going to be kind of it for us. It would be nice if we could have gotten this Whirling Death. This was the intent on this turn, was we're going to just like Whirling Death whatever the Reckoner goes in front of. But quite able to do that. Okay. Maybe there was a way and I didn't think of it fast enough. That was the intent with the Whirling Death and the guillotines and such. Looks like we might just be dead here as well. Well, we can let the Sandcrafter attack through if he opens on us. If he adds another unit, then we're just done for. That was too awkward. I mean, I'm glad that we were in the game, in a game to where we didn't have a turn 3 play and had an ultra risky turn 4 play, especially when our ultra risky turn 4 play got shut down. But yeah, you know, I thought that turned out nicely. Here, I do want to trade out the weapon hilt for the Brothers Bond. You can play weapon hilts onto Taric. It also plays well with our Reforged strategy. It's not a huge upgrade, but it's definitely an upgrade. All right. Pre-final battle part 2. The old Death's Door deck, the big old pile of removal with Ezreal Draven or Ezreal Thresh. So I don't even think I want to keep Blade Squires here. They tend to have so many like 1 damage pings. Let's cycle that out and see if we can't find the likes of Taric or just any other like 2-drop. Any unit that doesn't have 1 health is what I kind of think I'm searching for here.
Reporting in.
Boom. So these matchups can be pretty scary. They tend to have like a bunch of vengeances and a bunch of crumbles, and so if we're trying to make these plays where, you know, we're putting Zenith Blades on Taric and then we just get blasted with a 2-for-1, it kind of sucks. But you know, there's just not a whole lot you can do about it.
My faith protects me.
See, it's like here, if we want a Zenith Blade and he has the Mystic Shot, kind of sucks for us if he hits, but I don't think we can give up on the trying here. Get about it real hard. But all right, glad to see that happen. We drew an overwhelming number of spells here, so
Devotion through battle.
unfortunate.
Safety first.
Seems fine. Curious what his like removal suite looks like if he's not willing to put anything in front of the shield bearer. Team, okay, makes sense. So he's definitely going to get to pick up a spell here. Oh, brutal.
Check out the goods on this one. Sharing is caring.
All right, well, this is going to be like an all-in Sparklefly game. He's about to catch some +3/+3s. Maybe not.
The party has arrived.
Maybe not, we say. But yeah, I'm not feeling super good about this game. We haven't been quite as aggressive as I would like to be. We should probably just go ahead and Zenith Blade. I think we just have to kind of be all in with our aggression here. Maybe not here. The Zenith Blade's only 1 point of damage if this goes through. Might need to be playing Weapon Hilts or something here, especially since he picked up one of our spells. Sure. Okay. Alrighty then. I mean, we're gonna have to just Blessing of Targon our Sparklefly and put it in front of his pickpocket and hope for the best. Yeah, we're definitely going to be doing a lot of hoping for the best for the remainder of this match. I'm going to do this. Let's just assume the Sparklefly lives. We can punch in for It's actual tons of damage. Okay. Our Whirling Death, not a bad pickup. It's good to know that he stole our removal spell.
I'm cold, I'm hungry, and there's rocks in me boots.
It's like, and Eclipse Dragon, please. No? Fine. Probably just have to open here. If he plays like actual anything, then we're not gonna have a profitable attack. Right, there's our boy Taric. Hopefully he can get something going next turn.
Where's my axe?
Let's do progress day. Gross. I just feel like our Taric is about to enter a world of getting vengeance. And so I think at least as far as this next turn goes, like how close can we get to lethal? Just like assuming he doesn't play any cards here. Really hoping we had some opportunities with this Taric. I mean, I guess that's our win for the turn, is just getting Taric on board and alive. We'll go ahead and Zenith Blade. We don't have any more copies to draw, and so if this can protect him from, you know, if he has like Mystic Shot, get excited, he can't kill our Taric anymore. And how greedy can we be with this? I think I'm cool with taking the Traveler. I know this dude has like a ton of cards in his hand, but if he's got to like spend his turn just playing Vengeance, then this feels pretty good. He crumbles here, that kind of sucks. Like I can very much see him just crumbling away the Undying, but like I'm hoping here in my mind, it's like if he doesn't have any plays at that point, that his hand is probably just full of expensive removal, and ideally, he won't be able to add too much to the board. Because we can still also win this if, say, we Traveler into one of these, like, elusive... one of these elusive Celestials. Got 1 mana left. Trying to think how deep we want to go with this. I think the Zenith Blade is fine. All of the Celestials are either going to have Overwhelm or Elusive, so it's not a big deal to give up our last Blade. I think we'll just hit with you. We have the Overwhelm Fragment as well.
Would a mushroom help?
Alright, yeah, I think I'm on board with this.
Time for a true display of skill.
One of the big ones. Those are not the dudes we were looking for.
Sounds dangerous. I'm in.
It,
That's gotta hurt.
right. Man, that's brutal. That's really, you really needed to hit one of those spell shielded elusives. That's typically why this deck, this Death Door deck that he's playing, isn't very good anymore. Is if your opponent hits on the elusives, or I'm sorry, if they hit on the invokes, it's just better than what you're doing, right? He tends to be sitting around trading 1 for 1, and then if you're playing like invokes, you get to do stuff like we just did here, where we played Solari Priestess into the Traveler, into a removal spell, and it's like, why do you ever want to be just sitting around trading 1 for 1 if you're able to do, get 4 cards off of 1 card? And then on the flip side is if you're trying to just play a bunch of single targeted removal spells. Like what if your opponent does add one of those big spell shielded dudes? Okay, so what can we get to here? Let's see. We can go 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 from the Riven Sword. We get up to 9, 10, like 12 eventually. Still got a Riven Sword here, but we can't go completely all in with the 2 weapon hilts. Then if he has the removal for this, we'll just call it a day. I don't think we have any. I guess we could hit an Eclipse Dragon, so we technically can't concede, but it's certainly not looking good. I feel like this just gets killed like 80% of the time. Sure. It was a very large decision to choose the. I guess he has to worry about us playing a Blessing of Targon or something, but seems like the kind of thing that doesn't really warrant a lot of a lot of thinking about.
Time for a true display of skill.
Okay.
No way!
Pretty far away from 18 with this crew that we got here. Sure. Okay, so I mean, kind of is what it is. I think we put ourselves in a pretty reasonable spot to win a bad matchup with those travelers, and it just didn't come together. And so it's a little short of the final battle, but you know, with the way that we got there, I'm pretty content with. You know, whenever you see like the top ladder players are able to piece together these you know, like 65% win rates, and it's like, well, what's happened in that other percentage of the time? Well, a lot of the time you run into games where you don't play units in the first 3 turns, and then you run into games like that last one where it's just bad matchups. Yeah, that's the way life goes. But I still think this turned out to be a pretty reasonable Taric deck. I think we really hit on the deck building highlights and a lot of the intricacies of this deck. If anything, I think our spell count was a little out of whack. I'm trying to think, like, I typically, the way I usually go with these is we would prefer that these weapon hilts actually be Pale Cascades. That's your kind of preferred way to get card advantage out of here. Is you know, you play Pale Cascade onto Taric, draw a card, he copies your Pale Cascade, you draw another card, then you hopefully win both combats. That's kind of like your preferred cheap combat trick. Then I typically just like two Zenith Blades, but 3 is fine. I like 1 Bastion, and then I usually only like 1 or 2 Blessing of Targons. If it comes down to the choice between 1 or 3, I would rather just have 1, and then it feels like 2 is kind of the optimal number here. And so we do have like a bit of some awkward numbers in here. We didn't see any of them like Mountain Goat or Gift Giver package, but we did have the Reforged package, which is pretty nice here. And so again, like the big things that it comes to when you're drafting Taric is you need to, number one, find some removal spells, as we found here with this deck. You know, they're very rare and few and far between. So we were pretty happy to pick up this package of 2 Whirling Death, 1 Sunburst, and 1 Nox and Guillotine. But you know, you do have to go out of your way to pick up removal in these Taric decks since it's fairly non-existent. Thing number 2 is remember that you're going to be paying that combat trick / spell tax, and so if you're wanting to play, you know, your Zenith Blades onto Taric, then you're probably not going to be able to play a unit that turn. Or if you want to play a Blessing of Targon, you're probably not going to be able to play a unit that turn. Or if Taric is the only unit you have on the board, you're going to have to be able to play a unit plus a spell. And so you tend to want your curve to be really low so you can kind of accommodate that, whether or not it is getting your cheap units on the board so Taric can open attack or play a unit and a spell in the same turn. You need your bros to be a little bit on the cheaper side of things. And then otherwise, you know, I try to find some kind of way to always ensure we have Taric being able to get a spell cast on him. Within Targon, you're looking at gems. Within, you know, we put the Reforge route here, which is fine. It's always nice to just have some kind of way to put spells onto Taric that don't involve actual like trying to play Zenith Blades and such. Having these free ones so you can continue to level him up without having to invest real cards in it. Yeah, and then last but not least, I guess with these kind of things, we talked a lot about the difference between Eclipse Dragon and Savage Reckoner and how the late game overwhelms are pretty good. That's a thing to consider in your late game. We really prefer these Battering Rams and these Savage Reckoners as opposed to Wrathful Riders and Eclipse Dragons. You know, a lot of times you'll just have to kind of take whatever falls, but do try to jam in those overwhelms if you're able to. But yeah, that is going to do it for us today. I think we got that 7 win on the previous run, so we're still getting the proper amount of capsule here. It's picking up a bunch of things. I'm hoping, I kind of alluded to at the beginning of the video. I kind of want to wait and see what happens. I guess as the patch notes should roughly be out by now. By now being when you're watching this video. I wonder if these things like Kyrie and Sunpork are gonna finally make their way into Expedition. It's like a lot of these cards out of the new set just haven't been here. Like the 1-mana Shurima combat trick that gives neg2 attack and predicts isn't there. The Sunporker isn't here. It's like half the new cards didn't even make it to Expedition, which is kind of depressing, but hopefully not a sign for the future. But I'm curious to see if the Sunporker makes his way into cloning program and if we're able to actually try and put this Sunporker deck together. I think it would be pretty cool. And so we'll see if that takes me away from updating the site, if they include all of the new Shurima cards. I have to imagine they're gonna make it in before the release of the next set. It would be ultimately pretty depressing if they don't. But hopefully it'll make its way there. It's a nice little card to come up on the rewards to give us something to talk about. But yeah, that is going to do it for us today. So I hope you all learned how to play your blades and your buffs a little bit better. You maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.